Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. And the translation of that message reads like this. Hello brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my story as anonymous? I am a man who is from Zim, currently staying here with my wife, but my wife, she is a South African woman. So this wife of mine, she is almost as old as my mom's elder sister. My wife currently is 65 and I am aged 30 years old, just that I have a very big body. Like, I look like I am someone who is already in his early 40s, yet I am still 30 years old. So the way that me and this wife of mine got to know each other is that this woman, after the death of her husband, she then came to our church because she was looking for assistance. She was going through a lot, and it was quite a tough period of her life in that year when she had lost her husband. When she came to church, she was given a prophecy that if her house was not going to be strengthened, then it meant that she was going to follow her husband. This meant that she was going to die, because this woman's, like her late husband's relatives, they were fighting against her, and she had her legs always swollen, because it seemed as if when the relatives had finished burying her husband, they did something at her late husband's grave, and the husband was now waking up as a ghost, and he was the one who was being used by the relatives to fight against this woman who later became my wife. When she came to church, we actually had to lift her out of her. When she came for the first time to our church, we actually had to lift her up from her car, and we had to place her inside a wheelbarrow because her legs were so swollen. She could not walk, she could not do anything. But then she was given a prophecy that if a prophet was going to be sent to her homestead with some holy water, then the husband was going to return back to the land of the living, and he would never bother her again. So she became part of our church, since I was the one who understood the language, because most of the prophets, they had recently came here to South Africa. So most of them, they didn't know how to speak the language. I was made to be the translator. Each and every time that she will be getting the prophecy, I was always beside her, and me and her, we became like really good friends. And each and every time when that prophet would be at work, he would then pray for those items that this woman would have sent me to go and buy, and he would then say that go and give her, since I was like using her car almost on a daily basis, carrying people to church and from church. And most of these prayers, they were usually done around 9 p.m. So sometimes I would find myself driving alone to her place, and I would find out that her kids will also had gone out of the house. So it was only me and her, and seeing that she was always depressed, sometimes I would stay with her until it was 11, sometimes even 12 a.m. And each and every time that I would go just to relax with her, I would deliberately wear very tight pants that would always reveal my package. And with time, I saw that she kept on looking at my package, and I knew that she had fallen for the trick. One day she sent me a message, and it was just an emoji. She was just laughing. I asked her why she was laughing, and she said that she was laughing because I had such a huge cucumber, and she was wondering why I was not married. And she had came to the conclusion that with that big package that I had, this meant that I was someone who was gay. And I said, no, I am not gay. So she was like, you must prove it to me that you are not gay. So me and her, we started joking a lot on WhatsApp until she invited me one day into her bedroom. From there on, we started staying together. So this woman, from the very first day that I started staying with her, she spoiled me so much from day one by giving me anything that I wanted. When I would want it, she would always provide it for me, because she said that she didn't want to lose me. So this was like the way that I used to live my life. I was no longer going to work, because she had said that, what is the reason of you going to your low-paying job when I can take care of you? I was really spoiled by this woman. I even would drive back home with her car, and this was a late husband's car. And when I traveled back home with her late husband's car, I would lie to everyone that this was one of my many cars, that they would see me, like when I would post my pictures on Facebook with plenty of her cars as well as her late husband's cars. I'll say that those ones, I left them in South Africa. So when I came back from home, I didn't properly clean up the car, and there was a used condom in the car, and this was mine, even though I denied it. When she found out that there was a used condom in the car, she took all the car keys, and as someone who was spoiled and as someone that was used to be driving a car, this was just like my life, and it felt like my life had came to an end. And for me to start returning back to the construction work as someone who had been living a good soft life here in South Africa, I refused to let it go, that soft life that she had once provided for me. I kept on begging her to give me the car keys, and when she refused, I then spoke with another prophet about this issue. I just wanted him to speak with my wife so that she can know that I was really sorry. But that prophet then said that when you are married to a woman that has a lot of money, you need to do something so as to control her, because you are not the only one that is after her. Out there are other guys that are already waiting for you to be kicked out so that they can quickly move in. He even told me that in our church there were some guys that were fighting for her love. So he told me that he was going to assist me, but himself he could not assist me as such, because he had already given me these other river stones that are holy, and I had to place it underneath her pillow so that she can start obeying me again. But we were always fighting, and we were not enjoying our love like the way that we used to enjoy it the first time that I started staying with her. I wanted more control, so I spoke with that prophet about this, and he said that he had a friend of his who was a healer. So this healer wanted me to promise him that once he helps me, he was going to have one of my wife's car, and I promised him, because I was not sure. This man then said that he wanted to give me a lady's nightgown as well as that lady's underwear. So I didn't understand what he meant by that. On the night that he came for this ritual, he had already given me some herbs. He said that I was supposed to burn these herbs whilst my wife will be fast asleep so that she won't wake up. When we went to bed, when I saw that my wife was fast asleep, I then started burning those herbs that the man had given me, and I saw that my wife, she was really fast asleep. That healer then walked into our bedroom. Then we started removing the clothes that my wife was wearing, her pajamas. Then we made her to wear that nightgown as well as that lady's underwear. And I then asked where this traditional healer had gotten this nightgown as well as this that lady's underwear, which was really dirty. And he told me that he had gotten this lady's undergarment as well as that nightgown from this other guy of his who provides a lot of stuff for him that he requires, and most of this stuff that will be taken from those people that would have passed away in the hospital. So these items that he was using for this ritual, they belonged to a lady who had passed away in that hospital. After I had made sure that my wife had worn that nightgown that belonged to a lady that was lying in the mortuary, that traditional healer gave me that late lady's undergarment and told me how I was supposed to place it over the head of my wife, sort of to look like a mask. And when she was about to lose her breath, I then removed it, and one of that traditional healer's assistant, he was holding a big clay pot, and that traditional healer told me that I was supposed to place it inside that clay pot, and he gave me a black cloth which I covered on top of that clay pot, and I went with them outside. For this ritual to work, I had to join myself with my wife's spirit, and we had to be joined completely, like my spirit being joined to her spirit, so that we won't be separated forever. And if I was going to do that, my wife was going to become more like a zombie, and I'll be able to get all of her assets and transferring them back to my country. So our spirits had to be joined. So as someone who was lusting after her properties and the cover that was from her husband's life insurance, I decided to join my mind with the mind of my wife. That healer then came. This was after a few months with clothes. When he came back from home, he had some male clothes that he had, and he told me that these clothes, they had been removed from a man who had passed away in that healer's village, and he had bought those clothes for a huge sum of money from one of the relative of the deceased who wanted to use the spirit of that dead man. I was then given that man's part t-shirt and a trouser. I wore them throughout the night, and when I wore them, I had the most terrifying dreams that I had ever had. And I also took that t-shirt, and that traditional healer on that day, he told me that I was supposed to come to his place in the location. And when I went there, he then took that t-shirt and he covered my head with it until I felt like I was about to die. That was when he removed it from me, and he said that he was going to place it inside that same clay pot that had that same lady's underwear that we had once used on my wife. And he then went with it. I don't know where he went with it, but he had said that he was going to place it somewhere. Then we were supposed to go and bury it together in the bushes. But after I had sold the car to him, he then started giving me a lot of excuses. Each and every time when I would remind him that we were supposed to go and bury that clay pot, he kept on telling me that he was busy or he was out of the province. And after I had sold the car, and this pains me a lot, because when he came to me, I then went and I convinced my wife that we had to sell one of her late husband's Jeep Cherokee, and we sold it, my brother, for only 12k. And this money, I cannot say that we sold it for 12k, because the first day when we gave this man the car, he only had 1.6 thousand rands on him, and he drove the car back to the location where he was staying. Here and there, he would bring something like 1,000. Sometimes he would bring 800 until the money that was enough. That was when he returned back home after we had fixed the papers for that Jeep Cherokee that once belonged to my wife's late husband. And when he was at home, he would just request more money and more money, especially when he arrived back home in Zim. We knew that each and every weekend I had to go and send him some money. And what surprised me and my wife was that it was like we had made to become more like zombies. He would just send us a message. Then if we read a text message from him, we will end up going to send him the money, even if we didn't know what this money was all about. When he saw that now we were like, each and every time when he would say, please, can you send me some money? We will say that we don't have money. He would send his brother to come and collect that money. And the last time that the brother came to collect the money from me and my wife, we went with the brother. Actually, he waited for us in the car, and we withdrew the money. We used the ATM limit as well as the wallet limit on 2 bank cards, and we gave him the money. So I suspect that this traditional healer, he didn't go and bury this clay pot like he had promised me. And that is the same clay pot that he helped us to lock up our brains inside that clay pot. The last time that I spoke with him about this issue, he just laughed and said, what clay pot are you talking about? That thing doesn't matter anymore. It is already expired. And ever since that day, he has been changing numbers. He can use one number for only a day, And if I get to know about his new number, then you will see that the number will no longer be in use. As for me, I do not feel sorry for As for me, I don't feel that sorry for myself because I am still young. But the woman that is my wife, she has had a lot of losses, all because in the name of love. And I am afraid that this man, if he has still that clay pot that we locked our brains inside, maybe he is going to control us so that we can even sell this woman's house and give him all of that money. This is my everyday prayer, that please God, try to rescue us from the chains of the devil.